Totals for week 39. Total expenses were $7,539 at $3.80 per mile. Total revenue was $4,250 at $2.14 per mile. That brought our net settlement to negative $3,289 at negative $1.66 per mile. Welcome back to Trucking the 7 Seas. This is episode number 109, and in this episode, we're going to go over week 39 and 40 of running my own authority. For this episode, we take a load to Colorado and then take some time off for Thanksgiving. If you're new to this channel, welcome. I started this channel in order to show exactly what truck drivers make. I started as a company driver, working for night transportation, moved on to a lease operator, working for night transportation, then an owner-operator, leased onto Landstar, and now we are an owner-operator running our own authority. I show all of the loads I take, what the revenue is, what the expenses are, and what my net cash flow is, and I compile all this information that I put into a spreadsheet that I share with you at the end of every video. So if this is a topic that interests you, follow the channel. But a couple of announcements before we begin. As mentioned in the previous episode, I am good to haul for Amazon. Now, I have not done so yet. I was actually intending to do it this week, but what I realized is that if I run for Amazon and just sort of restrict myself to only doing those Amazon loads, it kind of restricts what loads I can take during peak season. So I was looking at the loads, and it was loads on the load board and then loads on Amazon relay load board, and decided to just run the most profitable loads I can right now during peak season. So haven't taken anything for Amazon. I am intending to do so. I will keep you guys updated on that, but I decided to just run the most profitable loads I could find during peak season, and so far that has been the spot market. And second announcement is after the peak season ends, so after pretty much Christmas, so December 25th, I am intending to take quite a bit of time off and just run pretty slowly. Basically, after Christmas ends, the market just drops off a cliff, so I tend to take a lot of time off in January just to do personal errands and stuff like that. So that is coming after Christmas. Going to take a bunch of time off. Now, I will still be posting videos, but they may be a little bit delayed and not much to show because I'm just taking some time off. And I am planning on mostly running with Amazon, actually, during the slow season just to get my rating up. So you have to take quite a few loads for Amazon before you get access to most of their features. So I was planning on just running some frankly trash loads for Amazon just to get my rating up in January while I take time off. So that's coming, and just be prepared for that. But last episode we left off in Commerce, California. So I dropped a load in Commerce, California Friday morning, and then I was looking for a weekend load, but I was also looking for a weekend load that didn't get me too far away from Arizona, where my family lives, because Thanksgiving was coming and I obviously was not going to miss that. So I was looking around and I realized that I could probably just take a high paying load to Colorado in this instance, and then deadhead all the way to Arizona, which is not something that is traditional. But because I was in California, I was looking at the loads going to Colorado, and they were paying like $4 per mile or something like that. So I decided that this was probably the best move, because if I just grab the load, take it to Colorado, I'm gonna have to deadhead out of Colorado anyway, because it's just a completely dead market over there. So if I'm gonna deadhead, well, I may as well deadhead a little further and just get to Arizona, where I have family. And I thought this was actually pretty acceptable given that it was Thanksgiving weekend. So that's what I ended up doing. So I was looking around and I found this load right here. So this one's going from Torrance, California to Colorado Springs, Colorado. 1,100 loaded miles, 800 empty miles, paid $4,250 at $360 per mile. Yeah, so $360 per mile, but when you put in the 800 miles of deadhead, it goes to $2.14 per mile. So that is obviously excessive deadhead, but it still kind of works out. Now, mind you, basically half of this, all of the empty miles are obviously empty, so I'm getting extremely good gas mileage. So I thought this one was okay. And I'm looking at this like, that's not awful. I mean, given market conditions, this is not too bad. this is pretty much a function of running an LA load to Colorado. I know if you're on like the East Coast or the West or the Midwest or something like that, the idea of deadheading 800 miles is just absurd. But because this is going to Colorado, and I mean, there's just nothing in Colorado, so you're gonna have to deadhead out of Colorado anyway. So in this instance, I decided it was fine to just grab this load, go to Colorado, drop it, and then deadhead home to Arizona for the holiday weekend. So that's what I ended up doing. Grab this load, $3.60 per mile, $2 per mile after empty, and that's what I ended up doing. So we grabbed this load, headed to Colorado, and then we deadheaded back to Arizona for the holidays. Let's go. All right, so we dropped that load out in Colorado. Then we went ahead and deadheaded back to Phoenix, and then had a holiday weekend. So that's what happened there. So there's like maybe 4 days that are missing from this week and the following week, because that's about how many days I took off for Thanksgiving. So that'll show in the numbers coming up. But anyways, we were in Phoenix, Arizona, and then looked for another one, looking to kind of stay in the Phoenix, Las Vegas, California area if I can, or just broadly speaking, the West Coast. So that's what we were planning on doing, and I was looking around, and I ended up finding this load right here. So this one's going from Tulsa, Arizona to Las Vegas, Nevada. 290 loaded miles, 0 empty miles, paid $800 at $2.76 per mile. Yeah, so pretty interesting. Phoenix is not doing well. When I look at the loads in to loads out ratio in Phoenix, it's not good, which is strange because Phoenix is usually a very good market, and currently it's peak season. So this is the first load after Thanksgiving, and then after Thanksgiving, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, that's when the market really starts to ramp up. But for whatever reason, Phoenix is doing worse than normal. Yeah, so I grabbed this load going to Las Vegas, and Las Vegas seems to be a better market than Phoenix, which normally it's not. But I grabbed this one, headed to Vegas, and then from Vegas probably try to find something to California or wherever, really. But that's what we ended up doing. Grabbed this one, got me out of Phoenix, which is for some reason a bad market right now, and we are going to Vegas, which is slightly better. So that's what I ended up grabbing, and now we are headed to Las Vegas, Nevada. Let's go. Okay, so we dropped that load out in Las Vegas and then wanted to get back to California. And if you guys have been watching the past few episodes, there is a load pretty much regularly available. It's a load right here. So you've seen this load probably quite a few times at this point. This load is going from Las Vegas, Nevada to Commerce, California. 272 loaded miles, 0 empty miles, paid $400 at $1.47 per mile. Yeah, so this one, I think I've taken it like 5 or 6 times. Obviously the numbers here aren't good, but this is going to Commerce, California, so it's going to LA basically, which is a fantastic market. So it's just a backhaul load. It's first come, first serve on the pickup, first come, first serve on the drop, and gets me back to LA and puts something in my truck. I could deadhead to LA, and I think that is also fine. However, I do believe that grabbing this load is slightly better than deadheading, especially if I have the time, which I usually do. So that's why I've been grabbing this load. I think I've taken it 5, 6 times, I don't know at this point, but it does me well because it gets me back to LA. Again, first come, first serve on the pickup, first come, first serve on the drop, so it doesn't really slow me down all that much. I drop it in the morning, I'm usually empty within an hour, and then I'm in Commerce, California, and I can grab something out of LA, the LA region, going to wherever, so it works out quite nicely for me. So that's what I did. Grabbed this load out of Las Vegas, and now we're headed to Commerce, California. Let's go. Okay, so I dropped that load out in Commerce, California. Then I was looking for another one, and I think by this point it was a Thursday when I dropped it. So I decided to go ahead and try to find another weekend load, just to carry me through the weekend. Grabbing a weekend load out of Los Angeles is usually a good idea because you can get a very good rate out of there for a decently long load. So that's what I was looking for. And that last load to Colorado kind of got me thinking that maybe running Colorado isn't the worst idea, and just deadheading kind of far away to find another load. So I decided to basically grab another load to Colorado because it worked out well last time. So that's what I ended up finding. So I found this load right here. So this one's going from Fontana, California to Poncha Springs, Colorado. 1,066 loaded miles, 636 empty miles. Paid $3,700 at $347 per mile. Yeah, so pretty much the same story as that Colorado Springs load. This one, Poncha Springs, is located kind of in a pocket in Colorado, so it's not quite on the 25 there. It's located west of there, kind of north of Santa Fe. There's another kind of main road there. So this one I thought was fine enough. So $347 per mile with 600 miles of deadhead back to Phoenix. So I was looking at that, and okay, that equates to about $2.50 per mile again for effectively a 1,600-mile load that gets me to Phoenix. And half of it, 600 miles of it are empty, so very good fuel mileage. And I don't know. Let me know what you guys think of this. I think it's okay, right? Then maybe going from like Phoenix or Los Angeles to, I don't know, Dallas and back or something like that would be better. But right now, Dallas just isn't very good. So these Colorado loads are kind of interesting because you can justifiably deadhead a pretty significant distance and get out of there. And they pay pretty good going in. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I've been doing them, and they're working out okay for the most part. But yeah, that's what I ended up booking. So we grabbed this load from Fontana, and now we're headed to Poncha Springs, Colorado. So let's do it. All right, so I dropped that load out in Poncha Springs, Colorado. So I actually ended up dropping it Friday and then deadheading to Phoenix Saturday and then resting Sunday. And then I ended up grabbing another load going to Grand Junction, Colorado from Phoenix on Monday. But because of that, the Poncha Springs, Colorado load is going to be the last load on this paycheck. So we're going to get into the spreadsheet right now. All right, so as discussed, we're going to cover week 39 and 40 in this episode. And one thing to note is my scroll is not working. So I'm trying to scroll right now, and it's just not doing what I want it to do. So be advised of that. I might have to do some weird clicking downwards and upwards as I go through this thing. So with that said, let's go ahead and cover week 39 and 40. For week 39, we did one load. In that one load, we got 1,984 miles. Paid a total of $4,250 at $2.14 per mile. Fuel expense, we fueled up 2 times. In those 2 times, we paid $608 at 31 cents per mile. Maintenance expense, we did a PM on my truck. We also had the brake drums on my trailer replaced, along with cleaning the wheel seals on my trailer for a total of $4,851 at $2.45 per mile. Other expenses, scales $14 for 1 cent per mile. Fixed costs, insurance payment came in at $2,023, and our truck stop load board app came in at $42 for a total of $2,065 at $1.04 per mile. Totals for week 39, total expenses were $7,539 at $3.80 per mile. Total revenue was $4,250 at $2.14 per mile. That brought our net settlement to negative $3,289 at negative $1.66 per mile. Okay, caveats for week 39. One caveat here is that this week is missing a couple of days because of Thanksgiving break. So there's 2, maybe 3 days missing from this paycheck. So that's what's going on there. So the revenue is actually kind of low. So there's that. And obviously you guys probably see it right here. The maintenance. So brought my truck in to after in the Colorado load. So when I got done dropping the Colorado Springs load, decided to bring my truck in for a PM, and also wanted to have the wheel seals on my trailer checked because some of them were leaking oil, leaking grease, whatever it is in there, and decided, okay, I'm gonna have them all, pull them all off and then refill them and then clean them and whatever, and just make sure my wheel seals are good on my trailer. And I did that, And then while they were in there looking at it, they basically said that my brake drums were getting pretty bad. And I had been looking at my brake drums for a while. I just look under there, and these were the stock brake drums on this 2014 trailer. And I had been looking at them. They just looked like, I mean, they were rusty, and I was looking at them and looking at them, going, like, yeah, it's not good there. And then they pulled them off and they showed them to me. And when you put your hand, you run your hand over your brake drum, it should be smooth, right? Because that's where basically the brake pads hit the brake drum and slow your vehicle down. They're supposed to be nice and smooth, like a just smooth sheet of metal. And mine, instead of being smooth like that, were more like like this. And I felt them, and I just I'm just like, crap. So he recommended I replace all four of them because all four of them were getting pretty bad, and I just like, yeah, they were bad. They were still functioning, obviously. They weren't cracked or anything, but they were on the verge of cracking. So I decided just to bite the bullet and replace all four brake drums on my trailer, and that hurt for a number of reasons. Each brake drum was like $600, so it was like $2,500 total for all four brake drums. And this is a 2014 trailer, and those brake drums are probably going to outlast the trailer at this point. So it's like kind of crappy to have to replace them like that because they're probably going to outlast the trailer. And it's rough. I mean, if a DOT officer had looked at those things, I may get put out of service for those brake drums. They were pretty they were rough. I mean, I'm talking, they were rusty, and they needed replacing, but it did hurt to have to do that because they're probably going to almost certainly going to outlast the trailer at this point. But that's what happened there. So I did the PM. I mean, the PM was like $400. The wheel seals were like how much was that? I forget, to be honest. And then the brake drum, the brake drums were like 3,000 or something like that after labor costs and everything like that. Yeah, so that obviously really sucked. Almost $5,000 for brake drums mostly that are going to outlast the trailer. So that's always painful. Yeah, and then to pour salt in the wounds, fixed costs. My insurance payment came in at $2,000. So obviously our expenses were just absolutely through the roof. $3.80 per mile, $7,000, leading us to a negative $3,000 week. Ouch. All right, but that was week 39. Let's go ahead and move on to week 40. For week 40, we did 3 loads. In those 3 loads, we got 2,264 miles. Paid a total of $4,900 at $2.16 per mile. Fuel expense, fueled up 2 times. In those 2 times, we paid $622 at 28 cents per mile, and there were no maintenance expenses. Other expenses, tolls $200, parking $350 for a total of $550 at 24 cents per mile. Fixed costs, email came in at $8.40. DAT load board subscription came in at $178 for a total of $187 at 8 cents per mile. All right, totals for week 40. Total expenses were $1,360 at 60 cents per mile. Total revenue was $4,900 at $2.16 per mile. That brought a net settlement to $3,500 at $1.56 per mile. All right, caveats for week 40. Week 40 was fairly typical. 3 loads. There's about a day missing from this week because of the holidays. Actually, no, 2 days missing from this because of the holidays. So little short on mileage. Revenue was still okay, somewhat. And rate per mile, $2.16. This is the first week following Thanksgiving. So this is when peak season really starts to hit. And I didn't have any issues booking loads for decent rates. Obviously, this one, 347, I mean, after you minus the $600 of, or 600 miles of of deadhead, it goes down to, I don't know, 215, 216, right about this range right here. And then these 2 loads, they were also, I mean, they average out to about $2.15, something like that per mile. So first week of peak season went okay. Again, there's probably 2 days missing here. So the revenue and everything was okay. Hopefully things continue to improve and then keep going until Thanksgiving, or until Christmas. And then after Christmas, things are going to fall off a cliff. But first week, not too bad. First week of peak season, not too bad, especially since there's 2 days missing on this. And then fuel expense, 28 cents per mile. It's fairly low, and that's mostly a function of the deadhead, right? Because I'm empty on these, so I'm getting better fuel mileage. So that's why, I don't know, deadheading out of Colorado is starting to kind of grow on me as a potential strategy, especially out of LA. So if I just grab something from LA, drop it in Colorado, and then deadhead out, I think it can be very justified, especially because my fuel expense is going to be quite low. But I might keep doing that. All right, and then other expenses, had some tolls settle in. Those are probably from a couple of weeks ago when I was in Wisconsin, I'm guessing. It takes a couple of weeks to settle usually, so I guess I'm thinking that's what that's from. And then parking, I did rent a parking spot for my truck and trailer because I want to be able to drop my trailer to run Amazon whenever I want to. So I did go ahead and rent a parking spot for a month, and that allows me just to drop my trailer and then go do some power only for Amazon whenever I want to. So I did go ahead and do that. So that's what that is. That's an entire month of parking for my truck and my trailer. And then fixed costs, I mean, nothing to really discuss. Email and then DAT, and that's about it. And then our overalls came in at, well, pretty decent. This week had fairly low expenses, decent revenue, and then a good settlement. But if you look at last week, it pretty much cancels each other out. So this week profited 3,500, but last week we lost 3,200. So basically, the last couple of weeks I didn't make anything. I guess I do have a PM done, and I got new brake drums on the trailer. So I got new brake drums on the trailer, and that's pretty much how this week went. I got new brake drums. So that is week 39 and 40. Let's go ahead and move on to the overalls now. All right, total since starting my own authority, we have driven a total of 94,913 miles. Total expenses has been $106,000 at $1.12 per mile, and that is my cost per mile. Total revenue has been $178,000 at $1.88 per mile. That brings our total profit loss to $72,000 at 76 cents per mile, and all of these loads are dry van. Averages and other information. Average weekly paycheck is $1,795. Average weekly miles is 2,356 miles. Total fuel costs have been $39,000 at 42 cents per mile, and we are paying an average of $3.36 per gallon. Total maintenance cost has been $26,000 at 28 cents per mile. If I kept this up for a 52-week period, I'd make $93,000 and drive 120,000 miles. Total revenue has been $178,000 at $4,400 per week. Total deadhead has been 9,100 miles at 9.6% of total mileage. We've been employed 282 days, or 40 weeks, taken 24 days off, 258 days on duty, 110 total loads. Average load length is 863 miles. And if we had a theoretical $500 per week truck payment, we would have made $52,000 at 55 cents per mile. All right, so how are we looking? We're looking bad. No other way to describe it. We're looking really bad. I always mention this. I'm not bragging about any of these numbers. I'm just showing you guys my numbers so you have a better idea of what you're getting yourself into if you choose to start your own authority or become an owner-operator or anything. And things are not looking good at all. So I was at 80 cents per mile last week. Then brake drums replaced, dropped it down to 76 cents per mile. And then I'm going to give you guys a little sneak peek. Next week, actually, as I'm filming this happened yesterday, but the next episode you're going to see basically my the wheel seals on my drives crack and start leaking fluid over my brake drum, so I have to get the wheel seals replaced on one of my drives. And then when I do that, since they're already dismounting some of the tires, I go ahead and I replace 4 tires on one of my axles, and the entire bill cost me almost $3,000 to get all of that replaced, but I do have new rubber now. So next week is also not going to look very good. So that is where we're at. Little sneak peek into next week. I have more maintenance issues, and I don't expect these numbers to move next week either. Now it is peak season. Basically I have about 2 weeks of peak season before Christmas hits, and then things are gonna just drop off a cliff. I do manage to book, so peak season, I do manage to book a 2,300 mile load out of Los Angeles for $2.80 per mile. So it paid $6,600 total for a 2,300 mile load, which is obviously good. That's $2.80 per mile. And it's going to another good area. So it's not going to Colorado. It's going to Iowa is where it's going actually. So I managed to find that load, and hopefully I can book one or two more before Christmas comes, and then juice the numbers a little bit. But as I'm taking a step back and as I'm looking at things, I don't think that number is going up very much. I don't think we're going to get far past about, I think about 80 cents per mile by the end of peak season is what we're looking at here, give or take. Um, give or take. That's just where we're at. And then following peak season, following December, I'm going to take some time off. January is not going to be a good month. February is not going to be much better. And then at the end of February, that will complete a 12-month cycle, basically. So I took my first load March 2nd of this year, and I'm probably going to run this spreadsheet for an entire 12 months. And I don't think we're getting much further than about 80 cents per mile is what it's looking like right now. So that's what it's looking like. That's pretty much my estimate is about 80 cents per mile at the end of the year, which is just not very good. So that's where we're at. So I will do some reflection at the end of the 12-month really. I'm not going to do a summary video on like January 1st or something like that. I've decided I am just going to run this thing out for an entire 12 months and then do the summary videos that I do every time. So I'm just going to run it out for one full year and keep going. But, you know, just looking at things, maintenance costs have been high, about 30 cents per mile, and it looks like that's about where they're going to stay after the new tires and the wheel seals I had to have replaced. So that's what happened there. 30 cents per mile for maintaining a truck and trailer. That hurts. And then what else? I mean, in reality, drive-in, not good. This is by far the biggest mistake I have made, is going drive-in. When I got my own authority, I should have just grabbed a flatbed and just learned to do flatbed. That would have bumped these numbers up to maybe 90 cents per mile, I'm guessing. You know, I'd probably be doing a little bit better. But overall, yeah, I mean, there's some nitpicking to do. Yeah, drive-in was a bad move. Maintenance costs have cost me quite a bit. And okay, yeah, I get it. Maybe I can always book better lows, right? You can always say that, right? Book better lows, book better lows. But in the end, this is just a really bad market. I mean, this is just a terrible market. 10 roads, if you guys haven't heard, just went bankrupt. So they're ceasing operations. They had like 2,500 trucks or something like that. So you got major companies like that with professional dispatchers and contracted freight. They were contracting for the Postal Service. So it's not like anybody's doing well out there. And the market just really needs to get better. And that's the biggest problem here. Yeah, I should have went drive-in. Yes, I can always book better loads, but the overall arching problem is the market is just really bad. There's just major bankruptcies going on all over the place. I managed to get through the first year, though. I mean, I did manage to get through the first year. Almost through the first year. I mean, barring the truck exploding, I should be able to get through the first year. You know, knock on wood. So that's where we're at. The market is trash, and we'll see how it goes. Now, there is some room for optimism next year. So they are cracking down on the illegal operations. They are cracking down on these foreign operations. We'll see what kind of effect that has. But I do believe that next year, capacity will start bleeding out of the market. To what extent is anybody's guess. The ELP out of service orders are going to start affecting these MC numbers records. So you can't apply, or you won't be accepted to, for instance, Amazon if you have a terrible out of service record, or if your MC number has too many out of service orders. So it will start having an effect in that realm where, like, okay, these foreign operations who are running, you know, drivers who don't speak English are going to have a harder time getting on to, say, Amazon or something like that. So that will help things out. And then hopefully they really start dropping the hammer on these chameleon carriers and stuff like that. And then next year, capacity starts bleeding out. But that's just optimistic. Maybe it's wishful thinking. But right now, not good. We're at 76 cents per mile. I'm probably going to be able to bump it up to around 80 cents per mile by March. And that's where we're going to be sitting at, about 80 cents per mile with a paid off truck. Now, I am intending to continue all of next year. So, not going to throw in the towel yet. But if things do not improve by the end of next year, so, December 31st of 2026, if I'm still looking at about 80 cents per mile, it's going to be hard to continue. I mean, the only thing that's keeping me going right now is the fact that I already have everything set up, right? Authority's active. I got a trailer. My MC is going to be a year old. Truck's paid off. At the end, everything's already set up. So that's what's going to definitely keep me going. And then at the end of 2026, I don't know. It needs to get better. And if it doesn't get better, I'm going to have to make a decision as to whether I want to keep going on this little adventure here, because this just is not going very well. So we'll see how next year goes. Definitely needs to get better, but currently we are sitting at about 76 cents per mile. But that will pretty much do it for this episode. If you are interested in this spreadsheet or any of the other spreadsheets I've done in the past, they are available in the About section down below. After you find them, just hit File, Download, and then download them to a Microsoft Excel sheet, and then you're free to use them however you please. If you need a factoring company or a fuel card, I am currently using OTR Solutions, and they're pretty solid. And I am in fact using them, so I'm not just hawking you a product that I don't use myself. I am currently using their fuel card, and when I factor a load, I do factor my loads through OTR Solutions. There is a link in the About section down below, and if you use that link, it does help me out a ton, so please do so, and they're pretty solid. And then if you want to donate to me directly, there is a Buy Me a Coffee link in the About section down below. Just throw me $5 or whatever you see fit, and that would help me out a ton. YouTube does take like 30 or 40% of the super chats and the super thanks. So if you want to donate to me directly, Buy Me a Coffee only takes like 3 or 4%, so it's a lot better. But that will pretty much do it for this episode. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.